inclined to patronise Mitt, just a little, as Mitt struggled simply to read and write along with all the other duties of a hearthman in training.
"I'll send you letters,"
Hildy had promised, when she went away,
"to help with your reading."
The trouble was, she kept her promise. Her first letters were carefully printed and quite full of news. The next few were dashed off, with an air of duty about them. Around then, Mitt had learnt enough to be able to write back. Hildy had answered several of his letters with one of her own, carefully, point by point, but she had been quite unable to resist correcting his spelling. Mitt had kept writing. There had been a lot to tell, but Hildy's letters had become ever briefer and further apart, and each one was harder to understand than the last. Mitt had waited well over a month for Hildy's latest letter, and what came was,
"Dear Mitt, this Gritling the boys on Fay's side were at Trace with peelers, would you believe? They had seen right too, so it was all capping and no barley. We only had mucks, but Biffa was our surname, and you should have seen the hurrel. Now Highside is Dodgers, and we have Harrison from Scap to Leng Day, and everyone looks up to us, although we are to be stapled for it. In haste to Trethers. Hildreda."
It was like a message from the moon. It hurt Mitt badly. Hildy and he had had little enough in common anyway, and now Hildy was making it clear that this little was gone. After that letter, Mitt had told himself he did not care what became of Hildy, and then Earl Carrill came along and forced him to behave as if he did care. As he rode on, he tried to tell himself that he was being noble about Hildy. This was not true. He did not want Hildy hurt, not when she was evidently having fun for the first time in her life. The sun came up higher. People began passing Mitt on their way to the feasting at Aberath, calling out in the free way of the north that Mitt was going the wrong way. Wasn't he? Mitt called jokes in reply and urged his horse on. The horse, as usual, had other ideas. It kept trying to go back to Aberath. Mitt cursed it. He had a very bad relationship with this horse. His private name for it was the Countess. It held its head sideways like she did, and walked in the same jerky way, and it seemed to dislike Mitt as much as the real Countess did. They came to the place where the road forked, a rutty track going along the coast to Adonmouth, and a wider and even ruttier one winding back right into the mountains at the heart of the earldom. People were streaming down this wider road and turning along the way Mitt had come, and the horse tried to turn back with them. Mitt wrestled its head round on to the Adonmouth road and kicked its sides to make it go.
"Going my way, Halfman,"
somebody called after him. Hot and annoyed, Mitt looked round to find a boy on an unkempt horse turning out of the main road after him. Another hearthman, by the look of the faded livery. Mitt did not feel like company, but people in the north never seemed to feel you might want to be alone, and it was a fact that the Countess' horse went better for a lead. So, as the two horses slid and stamped in the ruts, Mitt said a little grudgingly, "Going to Adonmouth, Hearthman."
"Good, me too,"
said the lad. He had a long freckled face with a sort of eager look to it.
"Rith,"
he introduced himself.
"Out of Dropwater."
"Mitt," said Mitt. "Out of Aberath." Rith laughed as they set off side by side up the narrow road.
"Great one. You've come even further than I have," he said. "What's a southerner doing this far north?"
"Came by boat. We went where the wind took us," Mitt explained. "I think we missed King Haven in the night somehow." "How come you knew I was a southerner? My accent that bad still?" Rith laughed again and pushed at the fair, frizzy hair that stuck out all round his steel cap.
"That and your looks. The straight hair. But it's the name that's the clincher. Dropwater's full of southern fugitives, and they all answer to Mitt, or Al, or Hammett. I'm surprised the south's not empty by now, the way you all come to the north. Been here long?"